Oral Piercing Groupings. We're going to talk about bites. Riskiest to least risky. Kind of a companion for the one I did last week. Coming up next on Body Piercing Basics, episode number 102. So you might want to stick around. For those that are new here to the channel, welcome. I hope you're enjoying the videos so far, but you may not know who I am. My name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and I operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, located here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So, when I talk to you about these things, I'm talking about a level of expertise that comes from being in the body piercing industry for well over 26 years. I know a thing, or three. This is kind of a continuation of what I did last week. Last week I did a video about oral piercings, listing the ones that have the most risk to the least risk. This is, and I'm going to repeat a couple in here because they're combination or group piercings. But you should understand, anytime you get an oral piercing, you are risking enamel erosion, gum erosion, and softening of the bones inside your mouth, basically destroying the structure of your teeth, gums, and bones. Now, it doesn't matter what type of jewelry you wear in it, because I know a lot of people go, oh, you bioplastic and plastic and this and that. None of that stuff is going to completely eliminate the possibility of problems. What does is proper placement, proper anatomy, and having the correct jewelry size. Nothing can replace that. And when it comes to groupings, you're doubling up the possibility and risk because you have twice the jewelry, or in some cases 4 times the jewelry in your mouth, with the possibility of coming in contact with gums and etc. So you should always understand that before you get any oral piercing done. And it's one of the reasons why you really want to seek out somebody with a lot of experience. Let's dig right into it. Number 1, joker bites. Now, joker bites are 2 piercings that I don't generally suggest getting done. The Dahlia piercing, and then a cheek piercing directly behind it. Now, I don't know who would have the anatomy for this to do it correctly and not have a ton of issues. The problem is there's usually a large muscle grouping that's right at the corner of your mouth that kind of goes down here. Doing it through that muscle tissue is going to bring on a whole load of problems. Also, there is a lot of saliva ducts there. So if you want to drool out of the side of your mouth, even when you take the jewelry out, here's the piercings for you, at least the bite version of it. Then you get into all the issues of rejection that the Dahlia is known for, and scarring, and the fact that cheek piercing and both of these are pretty much in contact with your teeth on a regular basis. You have to put in longer jewelry to allow for the swelling. If you're going to end up going through this muscle tissue, it expands, it contracts, so you're going to have a longer piece of jewelry in there. It's going to cause problems. Now to repeat myself, Dahlia piercings, or Dahlia bites. This is 2 piercings that are on the corner of your mouth, usually done with a Labret stud. Go to the first one. All the things I already talked about. You're doubling up the issues. Instead of leaking out of one side of your mouth, you're going to leak out the other side too. You're also going to have possibility of rejection, where it basically just migrates right into the corner of your mouth and then outward. So you'll have scarring on both sides of your mouth. Bonus. Now, next one would be dimple piercings. This is cheek piercings. For some reason, they like to call them dimple piercings, or I've heard dimple bites. A couple things about this. First off, cheek piercings just have a load of issues involved with them. They are not a common piercing. They never have been. It took quite a long time for me to even actually see one in real life. When I started piercing back in the 90s, it just isn't a common piercing. And the reason being is because most people don't have the anatomy for it. Even if they do have the anatomy for it, there is such a load of problems that come with this set of piercings. And for all those people out there that are like, I want cute dimples, they don't look like dimples to me. They look like terrible scarring and indentation scars. It is not cute. It's scarring. It's not dimples. Now let's move on to the one that I've seen, but I didn't know how to name. But thank you, Internet. You've named it. The T-Rex Bites. This is 8 piercings in your mouth. Basically 2 beauty marks on each side, 2 snake bites on each side, creating a combination of 4 piercings on each side of your face. This is going to have a lot of contact with teeth, gums, and etc. You are not only doubling the possibility of problems, you are 8 times more risky. So, yeah, this is one you definitely want to think about. The other problem with beauty marks is multiple ones on top is there's a lot of structure in there that you want to avoid. Blood vessels, etc. You really need somebody that knows anatomy and can read it well before you even consider doing this. That moves us on to number 5, Canine Bites. Canine Bites are a set of beauty marks, one on each side, and then snake bites on the bottom, or, 2 piercings. Now, these, I would say, there's 2 versions of it. There's the version which is Labret stud, Labret stud, Labret stud, Labret stud, which is done pretty much straight in the mouth and is going to have a lot more contact with teeth and gums. Then there's a version that is lip rings on the bottom and Labret studs on the top. This one, because generally when we pierce with rings, we pierce more outside the mouth and more away from teeth, is probably going to be a little less risky than the one before. But here it comes down to the big thing. It's 4 piercings. That's 4 times the possibility of issues. Now, let's move on to number 6, shark bites. Shark bites are 2 lip piercings on the bottom. Usually, most people wear studs in these, though I would think, just like on the other one I just talked about, if you did this with rings, it's going to drop that wrist down quite a bit, especially if the jewelry is or the piercing is positioned outside the mouth more and right on the edge. It really comes down to your anatomy and etc. This one, because you're lining up 2 dots on both sides, it can be very tricky to get them to look like they all 4 match. But it's a piercing that you could do, a grouping. But understand, more risks, more piercings. Now let's move on to number 7, the triangle bite. Often confused with the triangle piercing. I don't know how many times I've had somebody call me and go, I want a triangle. And I go, okay, well, that's something you need to come in for a consultation for because you have a very specific anatomy that you need to do that particular piercing. And for those who don't know, that's a genital piercing for females. Now, I don't know how many times I've gotten a very, very strange look from the client when I ask them to remove their clothing so that I can take a look at the anatomy. Because they think they're getting an oral piercing, and I think they're talking about a female genital piercing. You can understand the embarrassment. Basically, this is a set of snake bites on the bottom, and then a Medusa dead center, so it creates a triangle. These are a little higher on the risk because Medusas do have a little bit of risk with where they're located at. They can be very traumatic with gum erosion in some cases. And because you have 3 piercings in there, that's going to be complicated. It's going to get more. And this one, you're not only aligning horizontally and widthwise, but you're also trying to create that perfect triangle, which makes things a little bit more complicated and harder to do and harder to read the anatomy and pierce the anatomy than to pierce to make it look like it matches. Now, that moves us on to dolphin bites. Dolphin bites are done kind of off-center on the bottom. 2 lip piercings or 2 labret piercings. Of course, just like I mentioned before, if you did this with the lip style where it's more outside the mouth and more not in contact with teeth as much, this can have a lower risk than if you do it with labrets. The problem is the location of getting it and trying to keep it above the gum line or below the gum line and have them match. Number 9, Cyber Bites. This is a Medusa piercing done dead center and a Labret piercing done dead center. Usually both done with Labret studs, so you have a wrist involved with Labret studs. I guess you could do a ring on the bottom, but I really wouldn't advise it. I have seen this done with a vertical Labret on the bottom and a Jessup or Jestrum. I always screw that up. On the top. You really have to have the anatomy for it, but that would pull that jewelry away from teeth and gums, so it might be a better option if you do have the anatomy for it. But for the most part, yeah, this is high up there. It just 2 pieces right in the center, and because they have to rely on trying to look centered, you can't really pierce the anatomy every time. So take that into consideration. Now we're going to talk about one of the couple tongue piercings that I have on here that I talked about last week. And that would be Venom Piercings. Now, not only with Venom Piercings do you basically have to have the perfect anatomy for it, but also you're moving jewelry out of the midline, more closer to your teeth and gums, and you're multiplying it times 2, which is going to increase the likelihood of contact, the likelihood of chipping teeth, the likelihood of eroding the bone structure of your mouth, etc. So anytime you double up on anything, it's going to increase that. But with this, you're also moving the placement away from that midline and more into dangerous territory. Now, I have seen these done where they try to do it both on the side. It should be generally within the blood vessels on the inside. It shouldn't be that far out. Now, number 11, snake bites. Snake bites are done on the bottom lip. They can be done with labrets, or they can be done with rings and that more vertical out of the mouth placement. The reason why I have this so low on the list is I have done a lot of these over the years, and I was doing them before they were called snake bites. They were just 2 lip piercings on each side. Never really had a lot of issues with these. Especially when they were done with rings. Labrets, you're going to have more contact with teeth. You're going to be more likely to have issues in gums, of course. But pretty standard piercing, pretty well established. Really, the further that jewelry is away from your teeth, the better. That's what I'm going to say on that one. Number 12, spider bites, also known as 2 lip piercings on the side of your mouth. I've done this so many times over the years. It was called nothing before that. Anyway, can be done with rings or Labret studs, like I mentioned earlier. This piercing, it's just one of those piercings that proper jewelry, proper sizing, etc. is very important. You're going to see less contact if it's done with rings and more outside the mouth than you're going to have with labrets. So talk to your piercer about that when you get it done. Now let's move on to number 13, angel bites. Angel bites are 2 beauty marks on the top. The reason why I put this so low on the list is even though it's done with Labret studs, even though there's usually some contact with gums, in most cases people don't move their upper lip as much as they move their lower lip. So I would say it's less of a risk of causing damage or erosion than it is with bites that are on the bottom lip because it's more stationary. You can usually position it in a way that it's not going to be on the gum line, and it's easy to line them up. So it's a lower risk. Before I move on to the very last one, if you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it, because we like it when you like it. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so that you're notified every single time we post something. Now, let's move on to the last one. Midline, multiple midline tongue piercings. This is tongue piercings that are done in a number of 1, 2, 3, up to 4 or 5, depending on how long your tongue is. The further you move forward on these, the more of them you have, the more the risk, especially to gum erosion on your bottom gums. You want to understand that every step is closer. The other risk with these is sometimes they'll do what I always called Xing. If you put them too close together, they'll start kind of forming instead of straight. They'll kind of migrate a little bit this way or that way and just don't look good. This piercing, pretty safe. Midline tongue piercings don't have a lot of contact, but like I said, it really depends on the number of them that you have. Well, that's all I have to say about this. The bites, the risky, the least risky. If you would like to ask a question, make a comment, or anything else, please do that. I do generally try to answer them. I'm about 2 weeks behind. I do get to them eventually. Just be patient. If you like merch, you like swag, you like t-shirts, like this one, check out our merch store. Link is in the description. Also, there's one of those merch bars. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care of one another. Stay healthy. And thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.